Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Secret Story Music. My name is Todd Henry. This channel I use primarily as a platform for my original music. I also do some demos and gear reviews on the channel, and some instructional aspects in the channel as well. And today, this video falls into that category. I want to talk a little bit about my DAW, my digital audio workstation, as it were, Ableton Live. Now, there's different flavors of DAWs out there, probably the industry standard being, Pro Tools, right? Most recording studios in the world are going to be using Pro Tools. It's the generally accepted format, I think. But there's a lot of other DAWs that have come up over the years. The second most popular probably being Logic. I think it's Logic Pro or Logic 10 right now. It's on the Apple platform, so I don't particularly use that because I'm on a Windows platform. But very popular with a lot of people. Reaper, freeware, shareware. There's other platforms, Fruit Loops and Adobe Audition, several other platforms. The reason I choose Ableton is because in addition to being a traditional DAW in the way you think of multi-tracking and signal processing with plugins, mixing and mastering features, there's a live aspect to Ableton as well, hence the name Ableton Live. And a lot of people use it in live performance, whether it be electronic music, probably the most popular aspect of live music that comes out of Ableton, or traditional, band, rock band type music, which I use it for. And so in front of you see a screenshot that's a little different than a traditional DAW setup, right? This is what you would see in like a Pro Tools. It's a grid, the channels or tracks run down the right, and you've got a plug-in bay here at the bottom, and then, the music moves basically from left to right as you record it or as you cue it. But this is session view. And I chose to start here because it most clearly shows the instruments that I use. Now, my main gig is on Sunday mornings. I serve a very small church out in Mills River, less than 100 in attendance on a Sunday morning. So we don't have a full band, right? We don't have a drummer. We don't have additional guitar players. I usually have a pretty regular bass player, keyboard player, and also some additional worship leaders to help sing, share the singing duties. And then myself, I'll play generally lead guitar and the lead vocal. So it's a really good core, but we don't have a drummer. So that creates some challenges, right? We could do an unplugged format, maybe get somebody to play cajon or djembe or a shaker or something and still have a beat there, but you'd be missing the big, power that, a full drum kit would have. So in comes Ableton Live into the situation. And, I'm able to do a little pre-tracking. I'll open up one of these groups here, and layer down some drums and some auxiliary keys, some auxiliary guitar parts, rhythm guitar parts as I need them in the tune, and use them in the service. This is universal, though. It doesn't necessarily have to be church music, right? You could lay in 30 different song arrangements and do 2 or 3 sets of live rock music and do covers if you wanted to. It's pretty universal in that it functions the same way. So what's the advantage of Ableton Live? Well, a few things. It does live signal processing. So it's a low latency, low resource plug-in bay down here. And so live instruments, you can capture them in a digital mixer, send them into Ableton Live, and all the signal processing is done here in the box. It's really useful for me being a guitar player because I can stack up, 6 or 8 different guitar tones with plugins and, just toggle through them as necessary. And I'll explain how I do that in just a minute. But for example, like I have a Gibson ES, it's actually behind me there on the wall, that has a piezo bridge, right? So I route one signal into channel 1 and one signal into channel 2, the piezo in channel 1. And then I have some signal processing associated with that, right? So the direct signal comes from the digital mixer, and it comes in via USB into this channel here, marked channel 1. Once it's armed and live, it goes through this channel strip. And so, you know, I've got some compression on the signal, 2-to-1 here. I've got an impulse response of a Taylor 614. So it's going to make this Gibson electric guitar with a piezo bridge sound almost exactly like a Taylor 614. It's got a ribbon mic on the left and a small diaphragm condensed pencil mic on the right here. You've got some EQ here. I'm scooping just a little here under 900 and giving it a shelf for some air up top, and then a low pass. So I've got some EQ on it, and then a touch of reverb. There's not a ton of reverb on it, just add some presence because we're already in a small room. So for acoustic guitar, I've got that. I've got, Archetype Plenty from Neural DSP set up for my clean tones. It's got some delay and reverb wash in it. Creates a nice ambient sound. I've got Nolly for crunch tones, and I call it Big Rhythm, but I use it as a lead tone too. This got some delay and on it as well, and this is the Nolly. I think it's amp 3. I think it's a 5150 amp 3. So all the signal processing on the guitar is done here. I've also got a vocal channel set up that has some compression. I've got some auto tune on it, a little bit of 16th note delay, like slapback delay, and then a tiny bit of reverb on the vocal. I don't like a lot of signal processing on the vocal, so all of this stuff is mixed very minimally into the direct signal, but it helps, you know, to create a professional sounding production there in front of house. So, you know, again, bass goes through here. I've got a Helix Native set up for the bass. Keys go through here. I can use Alturia, a soft synth, and get Hammonds or DX7s or grand piano type sounds through here. And all of this stuff is you know, put into the master and sent out to front of house and sent out to live monitoring on stage. So it's super helpful. Earlier I said, you know, I toggle back and forth on patches. Not only that, but I can also use the transport functions to queue up different tones or different songs, depending on what I need there. The way that I achieve that is through a MIDI flip switch. So naturally, I'm a guitarist. Both my hands are tied up during the service, and so these switches here are mapped to different functions in Ableton. So looking up at the transport controls here, I've got a stop and a start, for example. Well, my stop is up here. So all I got to do is click this and it stops all tracks. And my play function is down here. So I'll hit this button and it will play any tracks that I've got pre-programmed in Ableton for that specific set. Additionally, all of my guitar tones are on this bottom bay here. So I've got acoustic, clean, crunch, and rhythm. And then any additional lead tones I need set up here. I can map the volume pedal for modulation or volume features on the guitars or bass or whatever I want it on, really. So anything in the DAW, any button you see in here, whether it's to arm tracks, to mute tracks, to pan, to transport features, they can all be mapped to this foot switch. So again, another really useful and convenient feature that Ableton Live has, the ability to map to a MIDI foot switch. You can also map to a launch pad and loop on the fly. You can map it to a MIDI keyboard, as I said, and use soft synths. So each one of those keys are triggering, you know, a note and a specific soft synth. Again, as a live platform, I've never had any glitches. I've never locked up in Ableton. I know some people, you know, get that. I have Ableton Live Suite version 10, which is not the most recent version, but the second most recent version. I've had no problem with latency, buffering, signal processing, locking up, or otherwise. This generally runs without a glitch. I want to show you real quick. This is going to be kind of an abbreviated video. I'm going to supplement this with some additional learning. But you can see this is arrangement view, and you can see that these tunes are grouped up. The names of these tunes are on the right here. This is the service from 11:14, and we did Living Hope and Revelation Song for the opening two tunes, and then we closed with a tune called Graves to Gardens, Graves into Gardens. And so you can see the tracks within here. I'll expand the Living Hope group, for example. Each one of these is going to have a dummy tempo track, and basically all this does is define the tempo for the tune. It automates the tempo. So as you're going through different tunes in here, as soon as the marker runs into a new tempo segment, it's going to take that tempo automation and apply it to the rest of the tunes beneath it. So for measures 1 through 92 here, they're playing at 72 beats a minute, and I have a few tracks here loaded underneath. What you're seeing is a drum track with a little bit of keys and bass on it here. I sourced this from a website called praisecharts.com, and it's just a very skeletal rhythm section, and I've got that in here. I've got a pad, and you'll notice this is in front of, it's like a leader, I guess, for the rest of the tune, and the reason being is because I want something underneath me while I'm talking or welcoming my crowd or my congregation, whatever. So you've got this little bit of leader in front of that. And then I've got a supplemental clean tone because I'm actually playing acoustic in the front of this. And then I've got some crunch tones at the end. This is a pretty mellow tune that kind of culminates in a larger sound at the end. So I bring in some crunch guitars on that with Archetype Nolly. So I'm going to play you the first few seconds of this. These have been played in, right? I do have pads and 12 different keys. So this being in the key of D, the pad I just pull it in from a prior service or from a folder of pads that I have. Pull it in there, push it into the pad track, and you're good. Like I said, this comes from praisecharts.com. I've got all of my rhythm tracks in a folder. I'll pull that in. And then for these two, I'll actually play these in. So every time I put a new song into my set, I've got to do some pre-work, hour or two worth of recording, clean guitars, crunch guitars, bass guitars if I need them, any additional things I want in that track specifically. But I'm going to play you just the front section of this here. And so this is this pad, and generally what I'm doing in this point is like asking the congregation to stand up and welcoming them and preparing them for worship. You'll hear a count or a click, and then the track comes in with the rest of the live sound that's going. And you can hear it's a little minimal right now because honestly, like, you're going to have additional keys, bass, acoustic guitar, and a vocal would enter right there. So the aspect of the performance is that you're going to have 3 live players on stage, and over half of the music that's coming through front of house is going to be from live players. But this just supplements and creates additional interest. You can hear when the drums get a little bigger. It's going to kind of blossom into verse 2 here. And then finally, towards the end, I've got this auxiliary crunch tone. I'm actually playing a big crunch tone live during this part. But again, most of the music presented in that performance is going to be live from the 3 players on stage. But you've got, a live kit now, a full drum kit underneath all of that. That we're playing to, that really produces a full band sound. Now, a lot of small churches, you might have an organ or a piano player and a small choir or something. Even the modern worship churches, you're probably going to have, an acoustic guitar player and maybe a djembe or something. And we could go that route, and we do sometimes. We kind of unplug just to change it up, But predominantly, we're getting a full band in a smaller church setting. Generally, small churches aren't really going to have all 5 players in a band every single Sunday. So that's where Ableton comes in. I can do some pre-service work on Monday evening, put all these tunes into Ableton, line them up for the set, and have these ready to go on Sunday morning, so that we bring a full band to the table every time we go to worship on Sundays. Again, this is universal and wouldn't necessarily have to be applicable just for a church setting. I think in terms of like the solo acoustic guitar player that plays small rooms, or a restaurant, something to that effect. I've seen a lot of these guys already get into looping, right? So kind of looping verses down while they're singing over them and then soloing over them and that sort of thing. This is a perfect opportunity to go to the next level with looping, and just being able to have 30 different tunes in a set, mapped to like a launch pad 1 through 30, and you just kick them off as you go, and play to the tracks that you've pre-composed and have in place already. So it works really good for an acoustic gig. Look, a lot of bands are doing this, a lot of proggy type bands, Aaron intervals. I think plenty, a lot of guys are going to have supplemental tracks under there, and they're going to have in-ear monitoring, and they're going to play to a click. And so that, as these tracks come in to help supplement the music that they're doing live, the Ableton or whatever platform they're using will supplement the live performance with auxiliary pads or basses or whatever they need to help supplement. So I hope you found this informative. Again, I'm gonna try to follow this up with some videos on how to use the Line 6 FBV shortboard to map transport controls and arm controls throughout the channel bay there. I'd also maybe like to bring one together that shows me doing the actual service planning, where I'm basically going into prior services. You can hear there's like 2 years worth of services in here. We have a rotation of about 50 tunes. We play 3 or 4 a week. So, for example, if I wanted to go back to 1017, we had Overcome and Greater You Lord is in this set. Overcome's a great tune. It's got some acoustic, but some real big drives in the middle of it. All I'm going to have to do, to use that in this week's set is to drag and drop it in there. It's already grouped, so all the tracks are grouped in there. And you can see here, I've got 3 or 4 different guitar tones, the main rhythm track in there, a pad. But since I've already, done this once, I don't have to re-record everything. I'm just going to drag and drop for the coming week. So I'd like to do some, show some service planning and show how I put a service together. And then finally, what I might do is when I get into a new song, probably next month sometime, I'll show you how, from start to finish, I'm going to prepare these auxiliary tracks for use in a live scenario. Ableton Live, I love it. I've worked with other platforms. I worked with Adobe Audition before it was cool. Well, actually, when it was cool, before it became Adobe Audition, when it was Cool Edit Pro. But transitioned into Ableton probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I saw the value in the live aspects of Ableton. So it's a really exciting platform. It's great for creating too. Actually, all of my original material was done and started in session view. So whether it's a demo or a full-length original track that I'm creating, all that stuff starts in session view. I have a launch pad, or I use these arm segments here on my foot pedal, and then I'll just arm and release to loop different verse segments or chorus segments in here. Great creative tool as well. Maybe we'll do some work on that in the future. So if you have any questions about the content of today's video or comments on it, feel free to enter them into the comments below. Please like and subscribe as you find value in some of this instructional stuff or the gear videos I've done before. As I said, I'm going to try to follow this up, so if you like and subscribe, you'll get notifications when additional videos on Ableton Live pop up. But for me, this is the most versatile and useful DAW there is out there. It does everything that Pro Tools would do, but the live aspects of it, to me, put it above and beyond the leader of the pack, so to speak, in digital audio workstation. So hopefully you've found this video informative, and we'll see you next time when I do follow-ups to the Ableton Live tutorials.